As the White House fix the glitches with healthcare.gov, President Obama is asking Congress to refocus its energies on the long-delayed budget.
Here's the bottom line. Congress should pass a budget that cuts things we don't need and closes wasteful tax loopholes that don't help create jobs, so that we can free up resources for the things that actually do create jobs and growth. Building new roads, building new bridges and schools and airports, that creates jobs.
Joining me now is Republican Congressman Tom Cole. He is a member of the Appropriations and Budget Committees. Representative Cole, I'm glad to have you. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be with you.
So, sir, you initially said that you are open to raising revenue as part of a budget deal, but then you clarified your position later. So whether it was raising taxes or through some other form, what is it exactly?
Well, frankly, I'm open to looking at what I'd call pro-growth revenue, and that means things like repatriation of stranded profits overseas, expedited exploration and production of energy offshore and on federal lands. We've got a lot of assets. The federal government owns 20% of all the land in the United States, so we can look at some asset sales, things like that. And if Democrats want to put other ideas on the table, I'm certainly willing to look at them. At the end of the day, though, I don't think we need to raise taxes. I think we need to actually take some of the president's proposals in terms of entitlement reforms that Republicans agree with. They won't be easy to pass. They're tough for both sides to vote for, but they're the right things, and apply them to both our deficit and to easing the sequester. To me, there's a deal to be made here if both sides will approach it, with some willingness to engage in give and take.
Well, and I'm curious how optimistic you are, sir, that lawmakers, more of them in your party, will do the same, because you're saying give and take. Both sides have to give a little.
Well, remember, first of all, let's start with the things we agree on. We agree with a lot of the president's entitlement reforms. We don't think we should have to pay for areas that we agree, but things we don't agree with, like raising taxes. We don't expect the Democrats to embrace the Ryan plan on Medicare or to block grant Medicaid to the states, both of which we think are good ideas. So they've got some lines in the sand on their side. I respect that. But there's enough room in the middle to actually get something done. And frankly, if not, the sequester levels of spending are already written into the law. And we can certainly enact those. But again, we think there's better ways to save money and still have money to do some of the things the president's talking about doing, infrastructure development and certainly easing some of the domestic spending cuts that will otherwise take place.
Can you guarantee, sir, that with these negotiations, we're not going to be in the very same place we were before the extreme wing of your party picked up with the Obamacare fight? I mean, will Senator Ted Cruz have a big voice?
Look, I think the president would have been a lot better off today if he'd have done the one thing we asked, which was delay Obamacare for a year. I don't think that was an extreme request, and given the debacle of the rollout, I think they probably should have heeded us. I think it's going to hurt the Democrats and the president, but more importantly, the American people long term. Now, in terms of what we're willing to do, I think we are willing to sit down and negotiate. I can't guarantee anything. I'm one member of Congress, but I don't think we're likely to be in a government shutdown mode again. It's just a question of whether we'll have the sequester cuts, which neither side wants, or a reasonable compromise, which I think is achievable.
But, sir, you can understand from the president's point of view the reason he didn't want to put out that delay for a year, because it would have given Republicans a greater opportunity to try to repeal Obamacare overall. I mean, you can see that.
Well, we have a pretty good opportunity right now. Look, they control the United States Senate. The president has got a veto, and he's going to be in office for 3 more years plus. So I've never thought repeal was a very likely thing, and it was an unrealistic goal for those who said it. But the president's in a strong position. Now, we have passed 7 pieces of legislation the president agreed to, Democrats in the Senate, that have saved $62 billion. There's probably some other that we can agree on. We should work down that path, but again, I don't see that fight as one that needs to be mixed up with the budget of the United States. Again, we should look at some of the compromises that are on the table that both sides have agreed on, enact them, and use the savings to do, again, some domestic infrastructure type programs, but also to ease the sequester cuts. That's a doable goal.
Sir, when your constituents call into your office and say they're having trouble with signing up for Obamacare, are you helping them through the website problems?
Absolutely. Look, it's the law. And so, our job there is to assist people whenever we get a call, whether, it's a passport case or a veterans case or somebody that's having difficulty signing up, to this particular program. We don't deny services or help to any constituent that calls and asks.
Amid this rollout, sir, there's a new poll out by the nonprofit organization, the Kaiser Family Foundation, which found that nearly half of Americans still want Obamacare to either stay the same or perhaps be expanded. Only 13% want it replaced with some sort of Republican alternative. So can you argue there is an appetite for this health care option? And could your party have made a better case had they come up with their own viable, tangible health care plan?
Well, first of all, we did have a viable, tangible health care plan at the time. We presented it. It was voted down. We didn't have the numbers. We've got a number of health care plans out there now. Tom Price has one. The Republican Study Committee has one. So the idea there's no alternative to Obamacare just simply isn't the case. Now, I haven't seen this particular poll, but all the polling I've seen, and that's what I used to do for a living, says this program has never been popular, that people don't think it's well run, it's not been well conceived, it's kind of jammed through with overwhelming temporary Democratic majorities that don't exist today. And it's actually been, I think, the administration that's been pretty intransigent at looking at change, delay, or what have you. But at the end of the day, politics is politics, and the distribution of power is such it's going to be very difficult to repeal as long as Democrats control the Senate, as long as the president's the president. So let's change it where we can, but let's also make sure that we govern in good faith and get some things done, slow down this budget deficit or bring it further down, and again, encourage economic growth. Those are things that are doable.
Representative Cole, before I let you go, I do want to take a moment to get your thoughts on the food stamps fight. I mean, you've said in the past that food stamps should not be separated from the farm bill. So how do you see both sides of the aisle trying to negotiate on a farm bill, considering such a huge gap between how much the House and Senate want to cut from this food stamp program? There's like a $35 billion differential there.
It is, but it's $35 billion in an $800 billion program over, 5+ years. So the idea that this can't be achieved, 10 years, is just simply not the case. I would expect the conference committee will work. It'll find some middle ground. We've had an explosion in food stamps. They doubled under President Bush. They've doubled again, even during a recovery under President Obama. So there's a lot of growth there. The Republican position is not unreasonable. But I would expect the two sides to split the difference. They're not very far apart on the production parts of the program, and bring us back what will probably be a bipartisan bill that will, lose Republicans on the right and Democrats on the left. But I think there'll be a sensible center that will preserve the safety net programs and, push through the programs that are critical for rural America.
But, sir, some of the cuts with the expiration of the stimulus, that's causing some families to be cutting, 16, 20 meals a month.
Well, again, when you expand a program, this program, when the president came into office, was about a $34-5 billion a year program. It's about $80 billion a year now. So, again, we ought to look at each individual case, but this program has continued to go up, expand, even when the economy is recovered and unemployment is coming down. That's, this doesn't make any sense. And so clearly, I think folks have probably been, the administer the program, overly generous. But, when those portions that are expiring were, meant to be temporary. They weren't meant to continue indefinitely. So, again, the program is much, much larger than it was when the president came into office. So the idea that there's no room to trim or reform, I just think doesn't stand up to scrutiny.
Republican Congressman Tom Cole, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.